Hello, my name is Joel Cherico. This is all the pottery that I made this month. We call this our grab bag pottery. So I just make a whole different smattering of pottery, and by the end of the month, pots are coming out of the kiln. So it's nice to put them outside and look at them in the bright sunlight, because a lot of these glazes have kind of an iridescence to have a lot of depth in the glaze. So I like to get them all out, look at them, and then we're gonna polish them and pack and ship them off. So I'm just gonna talk about some of the techniques I did this month and why I chose some of these techniques. And here we go. So I did a lot of splashing. I call it experimental colors, just because I couldn't come up with a better name to call it. But I did a lot of that this month. About more than half of them are these splashy experimental colors. And instead of leaving this just a splashy iron and then clear glaze, on most of them, at least half of them, I dipped. You can see kind of a color change between these two areas, because I dipped in another glaze that was actually a white glaze. So this is kind of the brownish clay, and that's a little more white, that caused the iron to drip. And on some of them, it's a little more pronounced, like this, it's a little more white. So you can see that straight line, and then the color change between the iron under clear glaze and iron under clear and white glaze. And it just adds another layer of interest. It's, again, I'm just experimenting, and you get all kinds of surprises, like these blue colors, these kind of light brownish blue that shows up when you overlap glazes. And it's fun to, put my signature up on the side instead of on the bottom every time, just to experiment. I did a lot of red and black splashes as well, because I normally do this on porcelain, and there are some porcelain in here, but I just thought it would be interesting to do it on stoneware. A little bit of more toasty brown with the black and red. And when this black gets thin, it actually turns like a light blue. So I did it on a variety of shapes. There's probably 5 or 10 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them in this month's grab bag of kind of soup latte cups. What else? I did some black, just the black glaze splashed, but you see when I dip it in the white glaze, right, I splash it on and then dip past the line of the glaze, it's even more pronounced, the color change. See, this one is, you can really see it. I must have held this in the white glaze just for a couple more seconds. So it was like this, held in the white glaze, and it got even more pronounced. And this is all just, I'm doing it really quickly. That's part of the style that these are made in. It's supposed to feel kind of quick and fresh. A lot of the pots, probably 25, maybe 30% are this Nuka Cobalt, where it's like a very dark version this month. Every month it gradates from light to dark based on how much water is in the glaze. And I kind of let the glaze have that natural variety. Sometimes it's lighter, sometimes it's darker. But in bright sunlight, the iridescence really shows up, which I like. I also like the orange for my finger marks, or when I dipped it down into the glaze, because blue and orange are complementary colors on the color wheel. They tend to look pretty good, kind of like red and green. Blue and orange tend to look good together. So I like how that blushes orange from where I was holding it and dipped it in the first glaze. What is new this month? So I did some lunar vases, which I've done before, but I made some with iron. So this is mostly, it's iron and chrome, makes it black. This is just iron by itself. And it just kind of reminds me of the surface of Mars, or like one of the moons floating around Mars, maybe Phobos, one of Mars's moons. So a couple of those are in the batch. This is interesting because it's not the same blue. Can you see how, I had the splashy blue, and you can see the blue to black, but this is different. It's blue all the way down. I bought this glaze. It's a store-bought purple, because I was trying to experiment with purple and I didn't feel like mixing it up. So I just bought purple from a company, but I fired it much hotter and it turned like a dark blue for some reason, which is also really interesting. So there's a few of those in there. What else? I always put a bunch of, or just a few of really high-end pieces. So like my moon mugs, which are much harder to make and much more expensive normally, I just throw them into the grab bag pottery. So there are 2 of these, here's the other one, that are that same purple glaze I just talked about, but just the glaze by itself and on a raw clay. So the other one was under clear glaze, which could have changed the chemistry, but this one's just raw clay. And you can see in the craters, it really starts to get purple where it gets thicker. which is interesting. But yeah, it's mostly blue, which still is super cool. So those ones are thrown in. One that I tested with orange, only one. I don't know why, I just felt like doing orange, bought some orange, splashed it on, and then dipped it in the blue and left it black down here. That's kind of fun. And another version of the Nuka Cobalt. So there are two different versions. Obviously this one I dipped all the way down, but what I did was this one I dipped the white glaze first, then the black, and it turns blue. This one I dipped the black glaze first, then the white glaze, and it turned a different shade of blue. So again, you can see my finger marks. I was holding this with my left hand because my pinky's a little farther out there. Dipped it in the black glaze first, then dipped it in a white glaze. And for whatever reason, it has a different quality of blue. It's not as dark. And those things just naturally happen. I'm pretty much just mixing up the process with just a very limited number of glazes. This is just 2 glazes. And you get all kinds of subtle differences, which is nice. Some vases in the cosmic color palette. It's kind of outer space theme. Just a few of those. And where are the Neptune mugs? I know there's 2 Neptune mugs in here. These are fired on their side like this. So this is the only part of the pot that's not glossy, that's dry. And I put black stain on there, so you can't actually see any porcelain on here except the signature. That's the only porcelain that's showing. I put wax on there, and so the glaze didn't stick to it, but it kind of dripped over in the firing. And then this is dry. It's a dry stain, the same stain that I use for the Lunar vases, that dry surface. I put that right here so it doesn't stick when I hang it on these high temperature bars. And I do that so I get all the glaze to run horizontally, and it just feels like the planet Neptune to me. So big old Neptune mugs with a little bit of nipple glaze dripping on both of them. Those things are just naturally going to happen in the kiln, and this one actually has the cobalt that I put on the surface will change from dark blue to like this yellowish brown just naturally on its own when it gets really thick. Normally it's blue, and it gets so thick that it just changes color if I dab a couple extra times, which I don't know why that happens, but I love it. And I think that pretty much covers it. There's a double rim bowl that's included in this sale, where this was about that high, and then I folded the lip upside down and then pressed. Some videos of me making that, probably on YouTube. Double rimmed bowl. A lot of potters make this style. They're a lot of fun. And I think that about does it. So these are the grab bag pots, ChericoPottery.com/grab bag if you'd like to get one from this month's batch. Yeah, thanks for watching.